A New York State judge has ordered 2 fantasy sports sites to stop doing business in the state.
The judge argues that the games on the sites DraftKings and FanDuel are a form of gambling. Paula Reid joins us now from Washington to explain all this. So, Paula, explain the judge's decision. Why are DraftKings and FanDuel viewed as illegal?
Well, they're viewed as illegal because they've always been sort of advertised as games of skill, but this judge believes they're not really games of skill, they're games of chance. And as games of chance, they're considered gambling and fall within the gambling statutes of New York. Now, gambling has essentially been outlawed in New York since the late 1800s. So that's why the Attorney General in the state has been going after these sites. There are also lots of sports psychologists and people who argue that these sites really do feed into gambling addiction. But this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and this decision could have ripples across the country.
Okay, so clarify this. The Unlawful Internet Gambling and Enforcement Act of 2006 made fantasy sports sites legal. Does that act have any bearing on the New York decision?
The way I would phrase it is it didn't make them legal, but it didn't make them illegal. It sort of kept them out of that statute because they were considered games of skill. But in this court, the fantasy sports have lost that argument, and the judge considers them games of chance. Therefore, they are subject to the gambling laws. And so they can no longer operate in the state of New York until this makes its way all the way through the courts.
Yeah, Paula, throughout this entire legal action, both of those sites have argued that because you choose a player every week and the selection of that player in these fantasy sports, for example, fantasy football, means that somebody has to bring some level of skill to playing these games, means that it's not a game of chance, whereas the Attorney General has said that he views it as gambling here in New York State. So how do we expect the websites to legally respond going forward?
Well, they've already said that they're going to fight this. They're going to ask for what is called a stay on this decision, basically hold off this decision going into action. And then this is going to work its way all the way through the courts. You know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They have a whole team of very aggressive lawyers, and they're going to fight this because if they see that this argument wins in the state of New York, this is going to have ripple effects across the country. Other states are going to try to do the same thing, and the ultimate consequence would be increased regulation on fantasy sports, likely at the federal level.
Paula, you know, is there any sort of, I mean, we understand, for example, that you can gamble legally in Nevada. Mm-hmm. This fantasy duel, these fantasy sports sites have seemed to drawn away from legalized gambling. Is there any consideration to that there may be some states that are looking at this because it draws money away from some of the things that they offer?
Potentially. Nevada is a very specific example. Also, there are some specific tribal lands where gambling is allowed. Gambling laws vary across the country. Every state, at the federal level, at the state level, all the laws are different. However, New York is pretty common. A lot of states have similar statutes to that specific state. So if they are able to hold out on having FanDuel and DraftKings in that state, other states are going to follow suit. Because again, yes, there's a monetary concern, but there is also a public health issue here that many people have gambling addictions. And if the specialists and the experts are saying that these types of sites elicit those same types of addictions, that's also an issue that lawmakers need to consider.
Yeah, Paula. In fact, the Attorney General, when I interviewed him in New York, said that they're seeing a lot of the people going to Gamblers Anonymous for the same symptoms that people have when they play poker and other games of chance. So, Paula Reid in Washington. Paula, thank you.